Larkin, who is running for Congress down in Florida's 23rd. Jack says, are you a liberal or a leftist? I would say I'm a leftist because I believe that capitalism is the root of everything that is wrong on the face of the earth right now. Guys, I am so excited, though, to have Oliver back on here. He's really been making kind of a media blitz in the last few months, and for good reason. I think that his campaign down in Florida's 23rd is a very necessary one for the left generally to be having, especially because of his centering of the ecology of our planet being the entire thing that we are fighting for. Because, as I've heard him say before, there is no such thing as an economy without ecology. Oliver, how you been, man?
Doing well as I can be with this redistricting craziness that we're trying to deal with down here. But feeling good about the campaign, the momentum we're building, the grassroots energy, the volunteers. We're trying to qualify by ballot petition on May 11th. So getting those signatures from all across really our district and beyond because of this redistricting. We're getting registered voters from all across the state to help be part of this campaign and ensure that we're on the ballot on August 18th.
Yeah, Oliver, can you actually explain to my listeners where is Florida's 23rd, or rather, I guess, like, where was it? And and also, a little bit more about the issues that are really energizing people to vote down there.
Yeah, so Florida's 23rd district, it's in coastal Broward and Palm Beach County. So the southern end is the city of Fort Lauderdale, goes up to Boca Raton, also includes the community of Parkland, Marjorie Stone and Douglas High School. So we've got a beautiful stretch of South Florida's coastline. We've got one of the only tracts of coral reef in the contiguous United States in our district. And people are really concerned about our democracy here, of course, about the environment, about the cost of living, with the property insurance crisis, with so many property insurers pulling out of Florida with the recent hurricanes. And really just the housing affordability issue is so central to what people are dealing with here. Whether it be you're a homeowner, you're a renter, you're trying to find decent wages and enough to get by. So it's really at whatever level of the economy you're at, whatever level of the income ladder, people are struggling with affordability here. And we've actually seen in the Wall Street Journal and some other publications that we're actually seeing a migration out of South Florida because of this cost of living crisis.
Oh yeah, that is just awful to hear. I guess one thing I really want to know from you, in recent months, I think as more and more dominoes have kind of fallen in the Democratic Party's main line of like, oh, well, actually, we still need the pragmatists, we still need like the old guard somewhere, and especially with like Janet Mills just throwing up her hands, and I'm sorry, but like kind of lying to the media that it was because of money and not because nobody wanted her. I wonder, like, does that give you any hope for the future? One, in terms of like not just for your race, but also for people who are going to run a race that's going to be like similar to yours in other states. But I also want to know, do you think that the Democratic Party will eventually like come around to the socialistic messaging and start like co-opting it?
Well, on the first point, I think that what's been so encouraging about that Senate race in Maine is that people are really seeing the proof positive that you don't need to be running in the ultra deep blue parts of the country to bring a progressive message, an anti-war message, an anti-corporate PAC money message, be an advocate for Medicare for all and universal programs. I think Maine, being such an elusive state for Democrats and trying to unseat Susan Collins, I remember Sarah Gideon in 2020 raised all the money in the world, millions and millions of dollars, but running on a very corporate centrist message. And that's not what resonates with people across the country. And I'd always say there's one majority wherever you go in the United States, and it's the working class. The working class is the majority everywhere. So I've been very encouraged to see this kind of bold, populist, progressive message be embraced in Maine. And I certainly think in South Florida, that's also what's resonating. I don't have a high degree of confidence that the corporate wing of the Democratic Party and the party establishment is going to change, unfortunately. I just saw DNC Chair Ken Martin once again explaining away why he's backtracked on releasing the 2024 DNC autopsy, as we see poll after poll after poll indicating that, one, the Democratic Party has never been less popular than it is now among our own voter base, but two, that the party's embrace of supporting Israel and the genocide and the apartheid in Palestine is just a no. It's a dead end electorally. And that's really what we're trying to challenge here and proving that people, no matter your background or what level of the income ladder you're at, people want to see our taxpayer dollars invested here in the United States. And again, people are being squeezed on all sides. And we want to see Democrats that actually respond to that and don't just talk about sending more and more billions of dollars to fund wars when people are struggling here at home. I hear that time and time again.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you saw this absolutely fucking insane clip of Haley Stevens that came out a few days ago, where she's holding the mic like this. It's crazy, and I'm just gonna do an impression for you and my audience, where she's like, "I love Israel. I will do everything in my power to keep Israel as a state in existence." And the whole time I'm looking at it, and I'm like, who in this audience wants to hear that? Like, even like hardline capital D Democratic voters at this point hate what we're doing. Like, I think the Democratic Party stance on Israel, to me, is genuinely proof of like some people want to be ostriches more than they want to be people. Like, they're not even, they can't even like use their own messaging that they use a lot of the time of like, oh, the focus group said they want this, so that's why we're doing it. It's like nobody says they want this. Like, only you guys who are clinking glasses together want this. Like, it's so good. Did you see that clip? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, and Haley Stevens is just really kind of the embodiment of so many of the problems that we see. Not dissimilar from Janet Mills. You know, Haley
Yeah.
Stevens is much younger, so there's not the same kind of pressure because she, unlike Mills, would be running for multiple terms in the Senate, and I think we can do a lot better than Haley Stevens in a state like Michigan. I've been
Yeah.
so encouraged to see Abdul El Sayed campaigning alongside Hassan Piker, who I was proud to go on Hassan's show back in March, and that was an enormous boost for our campaign. I mean, this is what voters want to see. And
Yeah.
I was even speaking with some voters at the May Day protests here in Boca Raton, and Jewish voters who confided in me. They don't necessarily feel able to express it within the Democratic Party circles, but they do assess what we're doing as a genocide, and they know that it's such a
Mhm.
fraught word, and for so many people who have their Jewish identity, you know, tied to Israel as a safe haven, and many who have parents or grandparents that survived the Holocaust. I mean, it is a deeply emotional issue, but there's an understanding that even before it can be broadly said or acknowledged by the party establishment, voters understand this, and it's something that they're wrestling with deeply. And I think that is a reason why we need more candidates that are speaking out against the genocide, to create that permission structure that more people can say it, because there's revulsion with what Israel is doing. There's an acknowledgement too among these kind of dyed-in-the-wool Democrats that Benjamin Netanyahu was supporting Donald Trump very openly in 2024, and for the Democratic Party to continue to make these excuses for Netanyahu's government, it's really just a self-inflicted error. And I think that people are looking for that permission structure to be able to say what we're all seeing on our TikTok feeds, on Instagram Reels every single day. The depravity and the I mean, I just saw Itamar Ben Gvir, the Israeli defense minister. His wife, for his 50th birthday, gave him a birthday cake with a noose on it after the Israeli Knesset passed a death penalty law for Palestinian prisoners. And of course, we know in the West Bank, Palestinians are governed by Israeli military law, and Israeli settlers are governed by Israeli civil law. It's literally a two-tiered system of justice. And people are waking up to that more and more each day. And that's something that we're really trying to hammer home here in South Florida, where we have some of the strongest concentrations of Jewish Americans in the country. And that historical memory of the Holocaust is precisely what is so revolting about Israel's actions. Seeing another people put through this war, these war crimes, and whether it's famine or genocide or having bombs dropped on them, it is just not a popular position with
Yeah.
anybody at all. And that's really, I think, what the Democratic Party establishment needs to hear if we want to win back Congress.
And I really want to take it back to the war point for a second. I agree with you. I think that Americans generally still have this sort of trauma like in them of like watching forever war just like bankrupt the country for 20 years, and like suddenly we're right here. And before you got on, actually, I was just answering a person's question who had asked what I thought was going to happen to the war. And I was like, oh, I don't think that we'll be in a state of like forever war. I think we'll be in a state of forever ceasefire. We're like, like the president is too chicken shit to admit like we are at war. We are losing men and women. We are losing material. We are losing like the battlefield. But he's also like not going to say we're actually at peace. Like, I don't know if you saw, but I think it was on. I think it was on Friday where like Trump sent a letter to congressional leaders that said that U.S. military hostilities in Iran have terminated. But like to me, this is I think pretty obvious that this is a calculated move to bypass the 60-day legislative approval deadline required by the War Powers Act. And I think that in reality, all this is like pointing to is that like we're going to keep blowing through billions of dollars like a day on this. And so what I want to ask you is, if you were to get elected into Congress, what do you want to be spending the tax money on down in South Florida? Like what specifically do you view as like the best way for the government to invest in the people of South Florida now?
Yeah, I think it needs to start with affordable housing for all. That is really one of the key planks that we need to look at in Congress is repealing this Fair Cloth Amendment that was passed under the Clinton administration that capped the number of social housing units at the number that existed in 1999. The United States has grown so much more greatly since 1999, and there's legislation such as Ilhan Omar's Homes for All Act to build 12 million new affordable housing units all across the country. That's exactly the squeeze that I'm describing with people here in South Florida, where young people are having to move elsewhere to find affordable housing and jobs that pay an adequate wage. We need to invest in our public transportation as well. And Ron DeSantis is trying to slash public transportation at the state level by cutting $27 million from our commuter rail system. Tri-Rail, Brightline, which is the investment vehicle, the private investment vehicle of our now Senator Rick Scott, after he denied federal funds to build high-speed rail between Orlando and Tampa Bay. He then invested in a private company, the only privatized passenger rail system in the United States. So we need to bring these things under public democratic ownership and democratic control, because when you look at the cost of a new car and having a new monthly car payment, it's over $700. When you go to fill up gas at the tank, this $4.24 or whatever we're at now, it's only going to get worse. And the inflationary aspect of this illegal war with Iran and the blockade on the Strait of Hormuz, it's not only going to be affecting oil and gas prices, it's also going to be affecting food prices. I mean, farmers in the Midwest cannot purchase fertilizer. The food instability that was precipitated by Russia's invasion of Ukraine and what that did to grain prices all across the country. I mean, we're going to see this now affecting our own agriculture industry, and we really need to invest what these taxpayer dollars are going towards, whether it's $1 or $2 billion a day towards war. I mean, we could pay for college for all several times over for a full year of college tuition for people, and not just 4-year public college and university, but vocational schools, trade schools. You know, all of the things that we're going to need if we're going to have a Green New Deal and invest in transitioning our energy economy away from fossil fuels towards democratically controlled public ownership and green renewables, and having the environmental restoration that is so sorely needed in South Florida, to whether it be restoring the flow of the Everglades or protecting our coral reefs, which are dying off at historic rates. I mean, there is work to be done. There is work to be done. We're seeing hundreds of positions laid off from Broward County Public Schools as we speak. I mean, we need to invest in education. We need to invest in housing. We need to invest in our energy economy and our environment and public transportation. These are the things that are going to materially improve people's lives. And I'd see what we're doing today as just an incredible waste. And you're right, there is not the courage to declare that we're still at war. It's going to be this kind of subterranean kind of understanding. You really need to look and peel back the layers to see what we are still contributing towards. I mean, it's not dissimilar to Israel continuing to strike Gaza or strike Lebanon during so-called ceasefires. And we don't have leaders that are currently with the courage to call that out.
Yeah, when we talk about energy independence, especially, there's a couple things that people have brought up in the comments, and to everybody who's in the chat, thank you all for participating, even while I'm not as able to address your comments so directly. I do see what you guys are saying, though, and I do want you to know that it is directly informing the questions that are in my head. I really want to talk a little bit about the aggressive new economic sanctions that the administration rolled out that were targeting like large sections of Cuba's economy, right? Because like to me, I view this as just like a textbook example of treating like physical systems as political weapons themselves, and they are quite literally weaponizing the country's energy grid like against them, right? And so when we talk about building sustainable energy infrastructure here at home, and especially down in South Florida, like how do you actually communicate to the voters down in South Florida that this is actually about taking economic leverage away from the top?
Yeah, I think when we see, and there's a historical memory here as well, with Halliburton and Dick Cheney and those kind of corporate impulses to drag us into war with Iraq. We're seeing it with the abduction of Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela, and that was ostensibly to give big oil and fossil fuel interests control over the Venezuelan oil economy. And of course, Venezuela cuts off then with Delcy Rodriguez kind of bowing to the pressure of the United States. Venezuela cuts off its shipments to Cuba. We even saw the pressure applied on Mexico from sending oil to Cuba, but that oil now goes to Israel, and it goes towards the United States allies and our ever diminishing circle of allies with the way that we're behaving completely recklessly and illegally on the international stage. And we were watching with great interest the relief trip that so many Americans took to Cuba, and literally the rationing of oil and fossil fuel to have just the most critical components of the Cuban economy still function. I mean, people were dying on ventilators because there was not energy to keep the hospitals running. And the United States, you'll hear, and it's very frequent, what Donald Trump is even now saying, Cuba's next. And we know that Marco Rubio and the war hawks in his cabinet, they've always seen regime change in Cuba as one of the ultimate goals of United States foreign policy. And if Cuba has to fail based on the United States applying all of this pressure, and it has still withstood this pressure for 65 some odd years, I mean, the American argument is failing on our own merits, that Cuba is going to collapse if we apply this pressure. Cuba is still sustaining its agency and autonomy and sovereignty despite all of the pressure that we're applying towards it. And the threats, the brinksmanship that Donald Trump is applying to Cuba, where we might have an invasion or we might enter into regime change, I mean, that could throw South Florida directly in the line of fire of a new front in a global war, what the United States is really entering into, where Trump is trying to take over Iran, and he's trying to take over Venezuela, and he's trying to take over Cuba. I mean, he is taking us to war with the entire world because the failure of the Trump economy is being felt at all levels here in the United States. He's never been less popular. And I think we're going down a very dangerous route. And Democrats, and this is where it comes back to the responsibility that we have, and that I feel as a Democratic primary candidate, we cannot buy in to this fear mongering about the Cuban economy and the Cuban political system. Of course, there's a long-standing critique. But as soon as you buy in to the Republican argument, you are building that consent for them to go in and try to enter another regime change war. And we simply cannot have that. We need to enter into diplomacy and have diplomatic relations with the Cuban people and with their government, and do our best to try to improve the standard of living in Cuba by working more cooperatively on issues that are shared between our countries, like climate change, like protecting marine and ocean life. I mean, this is fundamental to living in this part of the hemisphere. We should be better neighbors than what we are currently.
You know, I guess like a thing that makes me wonder about is, why do you think that the Democratic Party as an apparatus has like kind of chosen to cede the entire United States position to the Republican Party, specifically like our position on Cuba? Because I understand why it is that Democrats like are like, as a whole anyway, have a pretty like feckless position on Israel, if not like an outright like agreeable one, where it's like, okay, well, you know, like what is it? Lobbying groups that are aligned with the Israeli government, you know, have like so totally bought and paid for the Democratic Party for the last like, what, 45, 50 years. And so I understand that it's like a more part of the DNC as a corporation's DNA now to be like Israel aligned. But I don't really understand how it is that they show like literally no interest in having a vision or courage about like Cuba of all things. It just seems like a total own goal for like no real gain. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that they just allow Republicans to like dominate the conversation there?
Yeah, I think it really traces back to when President Obama attempted to seek some normalization with Cuba, and then we had the backlash of Donald Trump. And I think Democrats, as is so often the case, just very reflexively said, "Oh, well, we lost that argument. We better try to adopt the Republican framework." I mean, we saw the same thing happen again after 2024. Democrats were already quite antagonistic towards immigrants. I mean, the very famous Kamala Harris in Guatemala City saying "Do not come," and then talking about how Donald Trump wasn't building the wall fast enough. And then we see 46 House Democrats vote for the Laken Riley Act and literally give ICE this power. We saw 75 Democrats vote to thank ICE and sign that letter of gratitude for protecting the homeland.
Now they're going to condemn Hassan Piker, and which probably means they're going to start condemning you. You know?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
It's going to go crazy.
I mean, it's really Democrats take it's this ratchet effect. That's the best way I can describe it. It is the ratchet effect where they just take whatever Republicans have won, and they try to adopt that position
Yeah.
to try to be like, well, we have this too, but we're just going to be nicer about it, and that's just a failed experiment. It's a failed enterprise that we've seen time and time again, whether it's 2016 or 2024, trying to adopt the Republican framework, even on foreign policy. I mean, having Liz Cheney campaigning in Dearborn, Michigan is just unconscionable. So,
Yeah.
yeah, the Democratic Party, and particularly in Florida, where we've seen the Democratic Party just the bottom has fallen out, and it's with Jared Moskowitz's elevation. It's with this very neoliberal, centrist, corporate Democrat kind of appeal or lack of appeal that we're seeing, where the state's gotten further and further away. I think what's brought the state into more of a competitive place is when Democrats are talking about affordability and the failure of Trump's economy and trying to provide a contrasting vision by standing up to the billionaires and corporations. But it would be a profound mistake to nominate someone like Jared Moskowitz, who has supported ICE and has literally branded himself as a DeSantis Democrat when again, these Republican policies are really squeezing people, and people are looking for an alternative, and they're angry about the authoritarianism and the dictatorship that Donald Trump is trying to entrench with deploying ICE everywhere. So that's
Yeah.
really, I think, where we need to change the course of the Democratic Party.
In terms of Democrats as a party, like generally not having any real vision or like political instinct, I think that Moskowitz might be like the best example of that I can imagine. But besides maybe like Kamala Harris herself, because help me understand this. Like, why do you think that Moskowitz thinks it's a good idea to be like, I am aligned with Ron DeSantis, a guy who famously has no motion, who famously is lame as shit. Like even Floridians who I know who are like more towards the center think that dude sucks. He has like, and not only that, but I mean, he effectively got bodied by his own president, by the dude he wanted to replace, who started calling him meatball. Like, you know what I mean? Like, why do you think that Moskowitz thinks it's a good idea at this time when like rejection of the establishment, rejection of the oligarchy is like the ascendant force in American politics across party lines? Like, do you think it's just that he's like, oh well, like it's easy. I think my voters are stupid, so I'm just gonna like, I'm just gonna wear my big sneakers in their face. Like, why do you think that he does that?
I don't think that service in Congress is Jared Moskowitz's ultimate objective,
Yeah,
to be completely clear. I saw after Moskowitz was appointed by Ron DeSantis to the Department of Emergency Management, he went into private consulting and made literally millions of dollars in a very short time frame. I see his current positioning for himself as not thinking necessarily about what is best for South Florida, what is best for the Democratic Party, what is best for Jared Moskowitz personally. And I think it is by maintaining these allegiances to the Republican Party and to the corporate establishment ultimately, because as we see now with redistricting, Jared Moskowitz and the seat that we're running in is under threat of a Republican gerrymander, an illegal Republican gerrymander. But Moskowitz knows that he has a K Street consulting job waiting for him. He can go back to private consulting. He's maintaining these relationships with members of the Trump administration, like Susie Wiles as Trump's chief of staff, who Moskowitz congratulated Trump on making such a good pick when he selected Susie Wiles. I mean, this is
yeah,
someone who is seeking first and foremost to ingratiate himself with the corporate establishment. That's why after he was appointed by DeSantis to be the head of the Department of Emergency Management, there were stories in CNN and other national outlets about Moskowitz being considered to lead FEMA for Trump. That's, if you noticed, when he would interrogate Kristi Noem in House hearings, it was never really with the ultimate objective of the objectives you're trying to carry out are wrong. It's that you're not carrying out the objectives competently enough. Like with the border wall, he
yeah,
would say the border wall is not being built fast enough, and it's because you, Kristi Noem, are incompetent. It's not that Donald Trump is failing; it's that Donald Trump can only be failed by his subordinates, and that's
yeah,
why we see Moskowitz saying, whether it's Kristi Noem or Pam Bondi, imagine the ratings, Mr. President. You're the
yeah,
you're the big titan of industry, titan of business. Imagine the ratings if you did apprentice style. You're fired to your members of the cabinet. It is this very. I mean,
laughable. Yeah,
it's clownish. It's clownery. But it is with a specific intent, and that is Jared Moskowitz trying to pocket watch and protect his ultimate the
Yeah,
real
what he really
money
wants to
that he
do.
can make. Yeah, which is, I mean, there was the clip you may have seen when he went on a podcast last year and was asked, "Do you regret running for Congress?" And he said, "100%, I would not go into public service. I would have told my 16-year-old self to go to Wall Street, be a finance bro, do cocaine for a couple of years, and get it out of my system." I mean, this is
Yeah.
he looks at Leonardo DiCaprio in The Wolf of Wall Street as like the emblem of success, and not
Yeah.
being a public servant and a steward of our community's interests in Congress.
Yeah.
So I think that's what he's looking towards.
Yeah. I mean, it's like so interesting because I contrast him with people like Haley Stevens, who I like genuinely believe that she believes that people like her are necessary in Congress in order to like hold the what is it, like hold the wolves at bay essentially. But like I listen to him and I'm like, that guy is bored. Like he's so bored being in Congress, and it's like I just pulled it. I don't know if my computer will let me do it, but I just pulled up this comparison image. I think that Jared Moskowitz looks like Phineas from Phineas and Ferb. I think that like they look remarkably similar, like in a way. There's kind of like a bug-eyedness about him that I don't know. There's no soul there. There really is not. Um, and actually, speaking of Moskowitz, I mean, we got to talk about the redistricting because I mean the redistricting is fucking insane. For all of the people who are watching, obviously you all know Supreme Court decided all at once, Voting Rights Act go by. You know, no more Voting Rights Act. If you are black or brown in the South, your vote does not count anymore. I mean, except for a very, very, very tiny little cluster in each state, which is, of course, a reflection of the Supreme Court being an instrument of white supremacy in the United States, as it has been basically since it was ever founded. Um, but I do got to ask because, as far as I'm aware, right, like after Governor DeSantis released the new congressional maps in Florida, because as I'm sure people in my chat know, it was within hours of the Supreme Court ruling coming out that states like Mississippi came out and said, "Here's the new maps." Right? I believe it's I don't know if it's Tennessee or if it's Mississippi. It's one of them though that is like fully suspending its own primary campaign, so that way that like they can use new, more racist maps, which is, mind you, insane because the maps are already so racist. Like they are literally racist maxing in congressional map drawing. It's crazy. But under the map that DeSantis released, right? Like the district you're in, Florida 23, now like I'm pretty sure now you physically reside in what is Florida 25. Is that correct?
Yeah, our district, the district where we've been running and talking to voters for the past 10 months, has been split into three. There is the coastal 25th district, which includes Boca Raton and Florida Atlantic University, and goes down now even further south from Fort Lauderdale. It actually goes all the way down to South Beach, and
Jesus.
it goes a little bit further north. So it encompasses the lion's share of the three South Florida counties, and cuts out a lot of the black and brown working class communities, brings in a lot more of the wealthier coastal suburbs. Another part of our historical 23rd district, Coral Springs and Parkland, is now connected across the Everglades to Naples, to the Gulf Coast of Florida.
Holy shit.
Just a completely different community of interest. And then, like I said, the large part of the black and brown working class community, as well as the city of Wilton Manors, which is the highest LGBTQ represented city in the country, are absorbed into the historically black 20th district, which is regarded as a very much a Democratic seat. The new 22nd and 25th would be more Republican leaning, although they did vote for Joe Biden in 2020. I think this is really proof of concept for exactly why I decided to run against Jared Moskowitz, because what these South Florida Democrats are presiding over is an ever shrinking sphere of influence, because their milquetoast establishment corporate policies are not inspiring anyone, and they've thrown us to the wolves. They've
Yeah.
thrown us to the beast of Tallahassee, and Republicans that, similar to states across the South, as you mentioned, are just with a precision, knife, just cutting out communities of interest and trying to isolate Democrats into ever shrinking spheres of influence. So, if we're going to reverse this trend, we need Democrats that are going to not only challenge the Republican Party, but challenge the Democratic Party, because they've failed to stand up for our interests, and they've failed to assert any real vision that would inspire South Floridians. So, I think our message is even more strong going into what could be an even more competitive election.
Yeah.
we're not prepared right now to legitimize this illegal power grab. There are still legal challenges that are pending in the court system. I've spoken with leaders in the Florida Democratic Party, locally and statewide. There are a number of challenges with multiple civil rights and voting rights groups. So this is not a done deal, and we very much maintain that this is an illegal power grab. But in the event these maps go through, it just raises the burden of proof for Democrats to provide a contrasting alternative point of vision. Because if you're going to run as Republican light in a district that's getting more and more Republican, I mean, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And if we don't have a Democratic Party that stands for something, in a few years, we could have every district in Florida be represented by Republicans because we don't have Congress members. I mean, I was just looking the other day. Jared Moskowitz is buying General Dynamics, and he's buying defense stocks and profiting from this war with Iran that he gave Trump a blank check for. Anyone that thinks that an electable Democrat in a swing district is someone who's enriching themselves from congressional stock trading and supporting war, I mean, look in the mirror. Look at why Democrats lost the.
Oh shit. Oh, Oliver, are you there? He just, I mean, I hope his phone didn't die or something. That was crazy. Well, while Oliver is focused on rejoining, I hope you guys are enjoying the interview. It's been a really, really good conversation. I'm back, not sure. Yeah, that was so strange. Here, let's go ahead and let's invite you. There you go. I just invited you. That was crazy. No, I don't think he got banned. Sandrita says it was so fire TikTok could not handle it. So true.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I got kicked off there, but I mean, just I'm not sure where you lost me, but this is exactly why we need a different kind of Democratic Party and why we need candidates that are going to build a new coalition, because I think the opportunity is there, and the same old is just, it's you're fighting over scraps unless you really change the nature of the party.
Now, here's one thing that I noticed, and you'll have to tell me if this is still the case. It seemed that you are hiring for your campaign currently, and it looks like that you're hiring for a political director and a finance director. And I'm just curious, like, from your own perspective, how is the hiring and the structuring of these senior roles like challenging the standard Democratic campaign playbook? Just because, like, obviously you're running on a very like pro-labor platform, so like, how is that being reflected in how you're actually building out your campaign team?
Yeah, so our staff, I'm proud to say, is full of former union members like myself and staff organizers. We've got staff representing SEIU staff organizers, multiple former members of Unite Here staff, the restaurant and hospitality workers across South Florida and many other parts of the country. On our video team, we've got a member of UAW that was helping to lead the strike of graduate students in New York City. So we're building a labor-focused campaign, and that is reflected in our staff. We're a young team. There's a lot of opportunity in Florida for people to get involved. I remember when I was first hired by the Bernie Sanders campaign in 2015, I was 23 years old, and I had really not done much political organizing beyond doing some canvassing and phone banking for Barack Obama when I was 16 years old. But we need that kind of new energy, and I think there's a tremendous opportunity here. We've, thanks to being on streams such as yours, Corn Pop, and talking to folks across the country. I mean, progressives, whether they're chipping in $10 or $23, and this is a great moment to plug for these positions to be hired. We do need the financial support. So if you can go to www.oliverforcongress.com/donate and chip in. I'm not taking any corporate PAC money. I'm standing up to APAC and all the little Russian nesting dolls that they're trying to put their money in now to launder it. But with that same APAC influence, I mean, that's what we need to stand up to. People realize that if we don't make a stand in South Florida, it is a mistake that the Democratic Party has made to write off states like Florida and West Virginia and Ohio. And it's just this, again, what I'm describing with the congressional districts here is how the Democratic Party has looked at the map of the 50 states. And they've just decided these historical bastions of progressive, the prairie populism, where we used to have Democrats elected in the Dakotas and Kansas and Nebraska. we've made a compromise to take the corporate PAC money and to take money from the billionaires and the special interests that are making life hell for working people no matter where you are in the
Yeah.
country. And so I think what we've been able to show, and with our fundraising, we have a little bit of flexibility now to really grow our team, because it's going to take a big team. It's going to take a movement, and it's going to take a lot of resources to take on APAC and to take on these entrenched corporate interests that are going to spend whatever it takes to reelect Jared Moskowitz and Democrats like him. We just saw the amount of money that was dumped in. I'm not. I shouldn't just single out APAC here, because it's also cryptocurrency,
It's
which
also
Jared
the AI.
Moskowitz.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jared Moskowitz took over $250,000 from Sam Bankman-Fried's PAC, his super
So
PAC in
crazy.
2022.
Jesus.
So it's crypto, it's AI, which is trying to build these data centers, including one here in South Florida in Palm Beach County, as Florida Power and Light is raising rates on Floridians by
Yeah.
$7 billion for our utilities. And
So
Jared
sick.
Moskowitz and other corporate Democrats are taking those corporate PAC donations. So, I mean, to bring it back to the staff, I mean, very excited that, as well as having union representation, this is a project of our Broward DSA chapter and our local DSAs in Miami and Palm Beach, as well as across the country now. As I'm proud to no longer be the only federally endorsed DSA candidate.
Yeah.
Our national DSA just endorsed Chris Rabb in Philadelphia, and very much rooting for him. We've been on a number of panels together, and I think this is the message that we need to carry across the country. But I take a great deal of responsibility in carrying the banner of DSA, and showing that we can win, not just in the deep blue parts of the country, but
Yeah.
increasingly that our message on affordability, on democracy, on truly changing the nature of the country, to be more responsive to the needs of working people. This is a message that resonates everywhere.
Now here's my question to you, and I don't know how much more time you have. I only have a couple more questions. But if you were to win, do you think that the Democratic Party in Florida, who, like, I mean, you know, my apologies if anybody here works for the Democratic Party in Florida, but like, I just have to call it like I see it. Like, I feel like that they have literally accepted this like predestined fate of like, we're just going to lose all the time. And if you were to win, though, do you think that they would actually, like, so to speak, get off the mat? Do you think that they like mentally can even envision themselves being like, actually, we can win. We just like can't say, oh, actually, we're gonna be like Republicans. Like, do you? I guess what my deeper question is, like, do you think that old guard Democrats are capable of learning, or do you think that they've like just entrenched themselves in a political reality that's just like too deep in the sauce for them to come out of at this point?
You know, I want to separate the kind of Democratic Party leaders and the corporate
Yeah, from the
donors
people on
and
the
and
ground.
and, and
Yeah,
from the people on the, because I mean, people on the ground, they see Zoran Mamdani
yeah.
and they see AOC and Bernie Sanders, and there's a degree of FOMO. Like, why can't
Oh,
we have that
absolutely.
here in
Yeah,
South Florida? I mean, when I was speaking at the No Kings protest in Fort Lauderdale, on Fort Lauderdale Beach, in front of a few thousand people, and I said South Florida is ready to elect a Democratic socialist like Zoran Mamdani and AOC. I mean, people erupted. We're so ready to start winning again. And I would also say that I do think this change is possible, but it's going to have to come from candidates proving that this is an electorally viable route to take. I mean, I've taken a great deal of inspiration from candidates like Angie Nixon, who's a state representative representing Jacksonville. Folks may have seen her on the bullhorn on the floor of the Florida House
yeah,
talking about how this is an illegal power grab. She's running for United States Senate right now on this working class politics. She's another former union organizer and a grassroots activist. This is, and we see it elsewhere as well. I think Anna Eskamani, who's termed out of the state house and is running for mayor of Orlando, she's been a tremendously bright light for Florida. And it is really tied to standing up against this corporate establishment and doing politics in a different way, really centering the grassroots organizing experience that people have that connects you and really reflects what people are thinking and feeling. One of the most informative things that I do on this campaign is I go door to door and I talk to voters myself, because
yeah,
if you're having it filtered through the internet or filtered through polls, it's not going to sink in the same way as hearing someone's actual day-to-day lived experience of, I'm on Social Security and my property insurance bill just doubled from $3,000 to $6,000 a year,
yeah,
and I don't know how I'm going to get by. So I think change is possible in the Florida Democratic Party. I know that there are many people who, and I want to contrast this with the narrative. A lot of people, and I should acknowledge this, a lot of people were so disillusioned with the Democratic Party after 2016 and then again after 2020
Yeah.
that many just said to hell with it. I'm going to be in Florida. Our independent voters are non-party affiliated, so NPA voters.
Mm.
A lot of people disengaged with the party system, but there are many who have tried to get involved in their local Democratic Executive Committee, in caucuses like the Democratic Progressive Caucus of Florida, which is doing important work, which is trying to
Yeah.
bring people into the fold and center these working class issues. So I think we just need to look at the distinct wings of the Democratic Party. I think the trade union movement, I think the progressive movement, like these are the areas that really understand what it takes, and it's just there is going to be a fight that needs to be had for control of the Florida Democratic Party. The same as for control of the DNC. I mean, it is organized people versus organized money. Organized people can win, but we need to organize ourselves because the money has been organized, and that's kind of running on skates. They're just going to dump money in anytime that their sphere of influence is threatened. So
Yeah.
there is a way forward, but it's going to take candidates, with courage and that truly believe and truly care that Florida can change. And I believe deeply in Florida. I don't think that the last 2022 or 2024 elections is reflective of the true potential of our state.
I agree. I agree completely. Before I let you go, I want to give you one chance to say, are there any like in-person events that you want people who might be watching this who live in South Florida to come out and like see you at, or come out and maybe like talk to you that you want to plug? Or
Yeah, absolutely. We actually have an emergency town hall this Monday in Coral Springs. If you go to our website, www.oliverforcongress.com, and go to our volunteer and events tab, you'll see it. We're going to be talking about redistricting, talking about this illegal power grab and what it means for our communities in South Florida. So visit us there if you're in person and able to attend. We're also looking at live streaming that so people
oh
can
yeah,
join from all across the state, all across the country, so that we can really make this more of a participatory democratic experience. We're also continuing to go door to door. We're phone banking, and we're also collecting these petitions. So for anyone watching, if you are a registered voter in the state of Florida, you can also go on our website, print out our ballot petition, mail it into our PO box, and help us
yeah,
qualify for the ballot. That helps us save $10,000+. It's not just about raising the money; it's also about spending the money prudently and where it matters. To your point, Corn Pop, I mean, we're trying to hire staff. We're trying to organize.
yeah.
We're trying to get people involved in the political process. We don't want to try to just hand over $10,000 to the state when we can get organized instead, and try to feed two birds with one stone. So
Yeah.
that's what we're trying to do. So yeah, all of that information on oliverforcongress.com.
Yeah, oliverforcongress.com, everybody. Please go there. Please help out Oliver. I want him to win so badly because my closing remarks to this interview is that the reason I commented on one of Oliver's TikToks recently where I was like, I feel like I invested in Apple in 1980 when I first started talking to you is because I genuinely believe that if you win, it will inspire so many young people from across the country in the Plain State, in Appalachia, down in the Gulf, to be like, oh, actually, I can win over the people who like already vote, which is older people, but also I can get more people like me to come out and vote because it's the truth. It is just the truth. Ultimately, I think what people are really looking for right now is they are looking for any candidate who is willing to say the capital T truth, which is like we are heading in a direction where we are super boned. We do not have to be super boned. Like we still have choices to make. And I think that any candidate that's willing to say that clearly and not avoid hard problems like the climate, like our role in imperialism and the destruction of people in the global south, it is, in my opinion, it's like almost all you need to do is just say the truth. But it's like the hardest thing to do when you're bought and paid for. So when candidates like you come on scene who are like, fuck taking PAC money, fuck corporations, fuck the destruction of our environment, I look at that and I'm like, if that is where the Democratic Party heads, I think maybe we have a shot. But if we don't, then yeah, I think that all the cynicism is warranted at that point. So
Well, we're
Oliver,
going to keep fighting the good fight.
yeah, Oliver, I want to thank you again for coming on the show, friend of the field, as I like to call you. Hopefully, I can have you on again soon.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was great speaking with you again, and we're building momentum since the last time. So
Yeah, hell yeah,
third
man.
time's a charm. Hopefully, it'll be leading us right into a victory on
Oh,
August 18th.
oh, hell yeah, man, hell yeah. Everybody, thank Oliver for coming on my show, and we'll see you again, sir.
Take care.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on.
Oh, of course, man. Oh man, guys. Well, that was a great interview with Oliver. Honestly, he when I had him on the first time as well. I mean, he was so fantastic. And I knew from my first interview with him that he was likely to win. I really do believe that. I haven't spoken to many people actually who I had any doubt that they could win if they just like really wanted it. I feel very similarly with Oliver as I do about Shoykat Chakrabarty as well. For different reasons, though. You know, I think in Shoykat's case, it's like I believe he can win because like he literally has no reason to go into money, like go into politics for money because he's already so rich. So when he's over here being like, "Yeah, San Francisco is fucked if we don't get money out of politics," I'm like, well, I kind of believe him. I feel similarly actually about Oliver as I do about Mai Vang in California as well. Like she's somebody who I'm just like that woman is smart. She understands why we have to fight. Same as I do about Francesca Hong, who's also another DSA person, but she's running for governor in Wisconsin, and she's awesome. Guys, that's all the time I have for you all today. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate all the people staying engaged in the chat, and thank you all for joining from the field. I love you all, my little colonels. Thank you all so much, and I'll be posting this interview in full on YouTube and then also up on Substack as well. So if you want to somebody says, am I ticklish? Get the fuck out. So if you want to watch this whole thing again, or if you only caught it a little bit late, don't worry, you'll be able to catch it there as well. And to the person who says, I hope to see Angie Nixon on here soon. Yeah, I would love to. I would love to talk to Angie Nixon. And also to Emily's Corner, yeah, Millet Kuros. I've actually been trying to get her to come on the show for a while, but we just haven't been able to make it happen. But thank you all so much. I'll be seeing you guys soon. And I have a very special interview coming up this week that I'm actually going to go tease on a TikTok right now with one Ramsey Robinson running for governor of California. He and I are going to be speaking on Wednesday, and it's going to be sick. So, talk to y'all soon. Nice.